Hello, I want to first take this time to thank all of the moms, families, students who have been willing to look after my rabbits at such short notice. The way you all signed up to help me as my plans for rabbit care fell through was such a blessing. And so I'm just so appreciative. I want to also encourage you that it's very easy to do. You don't have to take them out. You don't have to pet them. You're just throwing food, hay, and water in there, and maybe even sweeping up if there's any pee outside the cage or things like that. And I'll explain that later in the video. But you don't have to touch anything. It's not a disgusting responsibility. Also, let me warn you, I have a lot of rabbits. I'm really trying to build a rabbit farming business on the side. And so far, I am able to make enough to at least sustain the cost of food. And I am making a little extra money on the side doing this, and it's something I enjoy. I've always loved caring for animals. I had never thought of rabbits until Alexander Perry decided to get a rabbit. But it has really been a way for me to kind of escape all of the stress of my life, as you all know. Just something fun that I do for no reason other than it's just fun. So that's a little introduction. I want to let you see a picture of what you'll see when you come. When you go down into the rabbitry, you'll notice there are two types of cages. Most of the cages have a grated bottom with a pull-out tray. And if you notice, the rabbits that have that are my rabbits that have the most wool. Either they have the most wool or they're just messy rabbits. Like they like to dig out their litter boxes and spread all over their cage. And I was like, we're not having that. So rabbits that aren't neat and rabbits that have a lot of wool, I put on grated crates and it has two openings, one at the top, one on the side. If you can access the ones with the grated bottom, I would open the crate from the top. It lessens the risk of a rabbit trying to hop out and escape. So I wouldn't open the side part of those cages. Just go in there and put the food in and water. I do have a couple of rabbits that like to, if you're not looking, will hop out. But they're very sweet. They don't bite. You just pick them up from around the middle and put them back in. I have two cages because grated bottoms can hurt a rabbit's foot if they don't have very furry feet. So those rabbits that don't have a lot of fur, I make sure they have dog cages. I use dog cages because it gives them a lot of room to hop around. And there's just a plain floor. There's no pull-out tray. And they use a litter box to use the bathroom. Rabbits with a lot of wool, you don't want them to use a litter box because the wool will just get messed up with pee and poop and hay. So you keep everything away, as much stuff away as possible from their wool. But rabbits without a lot of wool, I put in they use a litter box to use the bathroom, and you'll see the little box with hay in there. So that is an explanation of the cages. Okay, so that's our explanation of the cages. Most of my rabbits do pretty good with keeping it clean, but we have a couple of sprayers who like to pee outside the cage for some odd reason. And what I do with that is I'll just sop it up with paper towel. There's plenty of paper towel downstairs, rolls of paper towel. Just sop it up with paper towel, just to kind of make sure that there's no wetness left out. You don't have to lift the cage. Just make sure around the cage there's no wetness. Also, feel free to sweep up any excess hay and stuff that's kind of on the floor, just to kind of keep things. Brooms and dustpans are down there as well. But don't fuss too much. The most important thing is the rabbits get their water and food. If you're rushing or just kind of don't want to do that part, I will not be offended. The most important thing is that they're fed and watered. Okay, so supplies. The hay is just in a big box downstairs. You'll see a big brown box. I may order another box of hay this week just to make sure it doesn't run out. There's a big box of hay that says Stand Lee, and it has like green paint on it, green print on it. That is the hay box. When you go into the hay box, it is very important that you take out the hay, but make sure each time you go in, you close it up really quick. We have a fruit fly situation that it started with some fruit we had upstairs over this late summer, and they somehow found their way downstairs, and they like to get in the hay box. And so we are now working on, we've had an exterminator come. He assured us there's only fruit flies. And so I clean a lot to manage that. We're eventually probably going to move them in the garage when we get back from our trip, and that's the cold will kill the rest of them, and then we'll move them back in when the summer starts. I plan to make a closed-in rabbit room in the basement with plywood, but in the meantime, we're going to put them in the garage till the rest of those fruit flies die. So it's important to just keep that box of hay covered because they like to get in there, and that just kind of increases their population. So another reason why I want to have the pea cleaned up, because they like wet areas. So just any wetness around, just sop it up with paper towels if you can. So then there's the box of hay. There's a big black trash bin, and that is filled with pine wood pellets. And the pine wood pellets, if you happen to be one who's going to do litter trays for me, are to go in the litter trays and in the bottom of the litter boxes. You put that in first. And then with the litter trays, all you do is just put enough in the tray to just thinly cover. It doesn't have to be a lot because it spreads once they start peeing on it. So just kind of sprinkle. I'll put 2 scoops on each litter tray. There's a scooper in that, and just spread them out evenly so it's really thin layer. You may have some little holes and spaces, and that's okay. And then put that back in the tray. Also, with the litter boxes, you put 1 scoop of wood pellets in, make sure they're spread evenly at the bottom of the litter box, and then put a nice, huge, as much as possible, handful of hay in the litter box. And that's where they use the bathroom and eat their hay. They like to use the bathroom and eat at the same time. So that's what you do. With those who have litter trays, I have hay in like a hay rack. And if you're coming back, if you were to come back again, you would notice that all their poop and pee will be over wherever the hay and the pellets are that they eat. So that's what's in the big black garbage bin. Underneath the desk are 2 bins. One is blue and one is pink. The blue bin is where pellets are kept. That's their food. And then there's these little purple cups on the desk. And there's also a plastic Tupperware pouring thing. I would put 2 purple cups of food in each pellet tray. You'll see them when you open. They all look the same. You pour it in the base of the pellet tray and pour 2 cups each. And so that's what you do there. Okay. And then the other bin with the pink top has nothing in it, so don't worry about that. You will see to the left of the desk is just a big bin full of brooms and dustpans and things like that. On the right of the big black trash bin where the wood pellets are is a whole bin full of small dustpans, small hand brushes, and just other supplies. Inside the desk, you'll just find anything you need. Like if you feel like you've run out of something or something broke, you'll find extra water bottles. Anywhere around that desk in boxes, you'll just find supplies that you need. If a rubber band, some of our water bottles hooks got lost, so I've tied them to the side of the crates with rubber bands. You'll find extra rubber bands in one of the drawers. So that's basically all the supplies. Okay, and I want to talk about water bottles. There's all different types of water bottles on the side, but when you come, each of you, even if there's water in the water bottle, if every time you come you fill up the water bottle, they'll make it through the day. So the way I'm working with you guys is that typically when I'm home, I am working on the rabbits in the morning before I come to work, and in the evenings when I get home from work. But while I'm gone, they're only going to be cared for once. So it's really important that the water bottles are filled to the top each time you guys come, and there's lots of pellets, which will be those 2 cups or more. Just fill up the little pellet tray, and then like as much hay as possible. A good guideline is pull up enough handful of hay that if you look at it, it looks about the size of the rabbit, and that will get them through the day. One final thing about the water bottles is hooking them on can be tricky. So when you go downstairs, before you pull it off, look at how it's fit on. Some are fit on by metal hooks. Some are fit on by rubber bands because we lost the metal hooks. So before you pull it off, just kind of look closely at how it's put on so that it's not hard to put back on. Okay, so I think that's it. So the final thing that I do before I leave the rabbitry is I go around and make sure all water bottles are on and filled, all cages are locked. And then I also, when I leave, I make sure that I close the curtains completely. When you go up this first set of stairs leaving the rabbit room, you'll see this white stick in the corner. Use that to reach up and make sure the long cream curtain is closed all the way. Close it all the way. And also another thing I do, if you notice there's a lot of shoes and Crocs on the floor, if you remember, please take off your shoes, and you can put on any of those shoes to walk around in the rabbit room, and then put your shoes back on before going up the stairs. That way we're not tracking any residue from the rabbitry around the house. Those are basically it. I know this was a long video, but I hope it is helpful, and thanks again.